Hi everybody, thanks for joining me here in the Giant's Garden. Let's talk about mushroom grow kits. So, what's a mushroom grow kit? How do you use a mushroom grow kit? What's the deal with a mushroom grow kit? Okay, well here's the deal. Someone out there who knows a lot about mushrooms and has been studying it for a while is out there making mushroom grow kits right now. Okay, that means that they're going through the process of sitting in their lab, making mushroom spawn out of grain, colonizing that, making sure that they pasteurize or sterilize their substrate the way that they wanted to for their mushroom grow, and getting everything ready in one container that they then label as a mushroom kit and send out to you with instructions on how to grow them. But basically, growing mushrooms from a mushroom kit is made to be simple. This is the simplest part of growing mushrooms. All of the hard stuff, the lab stuff, the being really careful stuff, that's already been done, okay? So what you want to do is, first of all, make sure you always read the instructions that come with your kit, okay? This video is no substitute for instructions unless maybe yours didn't come with any. What you want to do is make sure that you've got the white mycelium basically displaying over all parts of your mushroom grow kit, or that it says that it's ready to go. They're ready to go when you can see that the fungus has colonized all over all parts of the actual grow kit itself. Now that might look different for different types of mushrooms. Most of them, oyster mushrooms, shiitake, reishi, are going to have a very solid look. It's going to look like your mushroom grow block is actually covered in something. In the case of oyster mushrooms, it's probably going to be like a white mycelium. In the case of shiitake, it may start white and then end up sort of brown and lumpy across the surface. And it actually is good because those brown lumpy areas are what produce the shiitake, better than the white stuff alone. You want to produce it from that brown lumpy mycelium on the outside of a shiitake grow kit. With lion's mane, it will also be covered in mycelium, but it's much harder to see. It's very wispy and it won't necessarily look solid. Instead, you'll see small points of white and hazy bits occurring anywhere you see between the grains or at the ends of the grains. If it's very colonized, if it's over-colonized, over-mature, you might see more of a solid mass. Probably still okay to use, but it's okay, according to whatever your manufacturer says, okay? So the idea behind a mushroom grow kit is this. Once it's fully colonized and completely grown through with the fungus that you've chosen, what you're going to do for most of these species is you make a cut in the bag, on the broad side of the bag, and then kind of lay it down. Most places will have you lay it down. Some will have you stand up the kit. There'll be instructions. Honestly, if your kit's meant to stand up, it probably comes in a little cardboard box that says that right on there. If it's more of a, box-free kit, then it's probably going to be a little bit better if you lay it horizontally, just so it won't be tippy. The mushrooms will fruit out of the cut that you make, and if you stand them up, then the mushrooms will come out of this cut that you make in the bag, and they'll have the classic mushroom shape regardless of how the bag is. If you have the bag like that as well, you're going to see mushrooms sprouting upward and then spreading, and they'll still have that shape. Mushrooms manage to find which way's up and which way's down. So your oyster mushrooms, your shiitakes, the cap's always going to be up, the gills are going to be down. Mushrooms will twist around and find a way. So whether you lay your kit down or stand it up, doesn't really matter. It's a little bit more of a preference. You want to make sure you have a little source of humidity in the area or sufficient humidity. A really dry zone is going to be difficult to grow mushrooms in. The humidity wafting out of and evaporating from the inside of the bag will be helpful for an initial pin set to really develop, but for it to really expand, you're going to need a little bit more humidity in the area. So if you don't have a nicely humidified zone, it might be good to place, say, a wet towel in the area, something like that, or maybe spray a couple times a day. I would not spray lion's mane mushrooms, if you're growing lion's mane mushrooms, they seem to do better without it, and I wouldn't spray more than once a day. In fact, you might even find yourself spraying nearby surfaces such as a paper grocery bag or a towel. As I mentioned, you could have something nearby to act as kind of a humidity releaser, which can help increase the humidity right in the area, your microclimate that your kit's actually in. Good places to grow around the house if you're doing it at a small personal level. If you have a small side bathroom or something, that's a great place to do it because you've generally got clean, sanitized, hard surfaces, or at least they're capable of being cleaned and sanitized. Wipe them down quickly, and then there's not a lot of dust that's released from the stuff in a bathroom generally. It's a smaller area, so it can trap the humidity more. And if you could manage to shut your vent so it's not blowing in dry air constantly, it's a good help actually. In a good sized space like a bathroom, you're going to get more than enough oxygen in there for your mushrooms to be able to breathe and produce mushrooms nicely. You might have heard that mushrooms grown commercially need a lot of air exchanges and so on. Well, if you're growing for personal amounts, small amounts. Generally, if you have a room with a mushroom kit in it, you're going to have a lot of air convection within the room itself. You don't need so much exchange coming in and out of the room. As long as you've got some convection, that'll keep bringing a constant source of fresh air to the mushrooms. You don't want a fan blowing directly on them. A fan in the room can be very helpful, though, so it can stir the air around and keep there from being pockets of CO2 that develop. Mushrooms actually breathe just like us. A lot of people are surprised to find that mushrooms inhale oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide, just like mammals do. But yeah, that's exactly how they work. In fact, there's a lot of interesting science that says mushrooms are more like people than plants are, which is fascinating stuff. The chitin that they're made out of, the cell walls are made of chitin. It's the same stuff that makes up your fingernails and your hair. So interesting to think. Anyhow, that would be how to grow your mushrooms. That's the type of zone, that's the type of treatment. Make sure that you make a slit in your bag if it's oyster or lion's mane. If it's a shiitake, you're generally going to remove the bag entirely, or following instructions, maybe just make a flap in the bag to be able to pull it back. You want to be able to expose a broad area of the shiitake block in order to produce multiple mushrooms coming up from the block itself. And generally, with shiitake, you might be spraying maybe twice a day. But again, following instructions from your manufacturer. So mushrooms are pretty quick to produce. Oyster mushrooms are going to come in most quickly, generally within 4 to 6 days of cutting. You're really seeing a big flush of mushrooms start to appear in reaction to the new conditions. Lion's mane mushrooms are going to be a lot slower. You're going to find that they begin to develop, they start to show maybe 4 to 6 days, a little bump or ridge right along where you cut, and then will develop over the next 10 days to 2 weeks. Shiitake are kind of on their own schedule. Basically, you have to allow that brown, lumpy stuff to kind of mature, stay in a nice humidified zone, hit it with moisture once in a while, and it will produce mushrooms right off of that brown layer. Okay? So, anyway, that will generally take a week or two for the shiitake mushrooms. So kind of in between the oyster and the lion's mane on there. They're ready to pick when the caps open up and you can see the gills. But you can really pick them at any time. So that is how to grow mushrooms from a kit. It's pretty simple, nothing really stopping you. There's a lot of more difficult ways to grow mushrooms, but even if you're learning how to grow mushrooms in one of those more difficult ways, if you're learning how to do it from scratch, do it yourself, do it from a pressure cooker of your own, well, that's fine, but don't forget to grow mushrooms while you're doing it. You got to get yourself talented at the skill of growing mushrooms too. It's not just about making sure you can do all that tough stuff. You got to have enjoyment from seeing those mushrooms come up from your own efforts, Nothing tastes better than your first flush of mushrooms, honestly. So no time like the present to get started. Good luck and happy mushrooming. Please hit like and subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can find your way back to the Giant's Garden again. Thanks for joining me.